What's up, guys? It's your boy Thug. This is not a reaction video, but it's just a new interview with the devs from Crystal Dynamics. Scot Amos, actually I think what is he, the president or something? But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna show you this video, and for next week, I'll be doing Iron Man VR unboxing and most likely a streaming, but for sure the unboxing. So stay tuned for that next week, Friday. Um, Let me know what you guys think of this interview, the gameplay that they showed off earlier. Bro, let me tell you something first. Before I start this video, bro, they had the nerve to show us pre-alpha footage on that Thor gameplay. What the fuck was that? I mean, I'm disappointed with that, but other than that, everything looked pretty amazing. But yeah, let's jump right into this. Let's stop wasting time.
It's time for another Play for All interview, and it's my great pleasure to be joined by Scot Amos of Crystal Dynamics, the Nick Fury of the studio, some would say, head of studio at Crystal Dynamics, which of course is working on Marvel's Avengers, the upcoming game. Scott, thank you so much for joining us.
It is absolutely my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So you showed off the war table, which is a comprehensive look at the game. There's been some questions around what the game is, and I think this is probably the best indication of the overall experience. So we're going to drill.
This flying scene right here, I can imagine just flying around the world. That shit would be fucking awesome. I hope it's like that. I hope you're not just tied to a mission and then you can explore. I hope you could just jump right into there, just level and blah blah blah, explore all this shit, dude. I would love to do that shit. This should be sick. Oh god. All right, let's just keep watching.
Down into some of the stuff. I'm gonna get slightly nerdy here and there and try my best to keep it under kind of control, but I have to start with Kamala Khan as the main character. Obviously, as a Pakistani Muslim, I have a special attachment to her. So I know you've talked about this before, but I think it's worth repeating. Why pick Kamala Khan as the kind of main character almost for this game? It's an interesting decision considering it's also an ensemble cast featuring one of the most iconic groups of superheroes. Why Kamala?
So thank you. It's a great question because for us, from the very beginning, from years ago when we started this game, there was little doubt in our mind that once we hit on what we wanted this kind of story to be about and be able to say, you know, Kamala had really just come onto the scene with her own series in the comics in 2014, and be able to say from the beginning, from our storytelling, we're like, look, we need a hero that is that point of view character that can be synchronized with the player. Somebody who's just coming into their own, who's trying to find their way through the world, who are fans of the Avengers, who are super fans of superheroes, who actually fit into that mold. Like, wow, this is very synergistic of finding Kamala because she's all of those things, right? It's somebody who's trying to figure out her place in the world, not only as a Pakistani American, but also now that she's become these inhuman powers, she's like, how do I become part of this and evolve and understand who I am and what I am? And on top of that, she is a huge fan of superheroes, particularly of the Avengers. And even in the opening story, where she's visiting A-Day as a young child and getting to meet her heroes, and then that expands and explodes into the Terrigen incident, that then she gets these powers. And so now her heroes created the events that now she is trying to go and uncover and reassemble. And so for us, it just so quickly synchronized into a story of we're familiar with her. We have a perspective as a player that is very much like hers, of being a fan, a super fan, and trying to fit in. And then from a storytelling of, one of the biggest things about Avengers for us is it's a family, that they may have their disagreements, but she's the one who's unifying that family together. And that's such a great just base element for us of storytelling, of saying, no, I believe my heroes are innocent and I'm going to prove it, and I'm going to help unify and reassemble these folks back together. And then that natural friction with AIM starting as really noble efforts of saying, okay, superheroes clearly are dangerous, and what happened at A-Day, let's use science to try and save the world and protect the world, creates this very natural friction of she's embracing her inhuman powers and who she is and becoming a superhero. AIM is immediately saying, we want to stop superheroes and use science instead. And so that conflict just creates this beautiful arc for us to kind of fulfill that superhero fantasy of becoming one of those Avengers and then becoming part of that team that then can go off and do even greater things together than they could do apart.
How do you balance, because obviously a lot of people will be coming to this game from a variety of comic backgrounds. How do you balance telling that story versus telling the story of someone like Kamala? Because obviously her come up, like the strength of her character was, you know, when G. Willow Wilson and Sana Amana put her together, they explored her kind of her religion and her faith and her culture, and that was the main thing that really propelled her to success. It was the first time a lot of Muslims, Pakistanis, Indians, whoever maybe got to see their own culture there. How do you kind of do you tackle that element of it within the game, or is this kind of more of like this is more about her place within the Avengers as opposed to her place within the broader superhero world?
Well, certainly we want to balance both, and I think that's an important point. Looking at Kamala and who she is, and just as a super fan, making her very relatable and understandable is a great entry point, because even if you don't know who these heroes are, we want this game to be for everyone. So if you come from a comics background, or from films, or from TV shows, or just you like really good stories and action adventure games, we want you to be able to get in there and say, I want to go on a cool action adventure. Oh, who's this? Oh, I understand who these characters are. The more depth you have of knowledge of these heroes and their history, both all 80 years of it, as well as even the recent past, but be able to say, oh, I've seen this and I can understand that, you'll get those little kind of insider feelings of like, I know that character's outfit, or I know where this piece of reference came from, what that Easter egg means. But in general, this is designed to be a great story of looking at the world, looking at where things have gone, what she's trying to learn from what's happening, and just going on this great action adventure together. So we do want to explore and actually do reference her being able to talk about her family, talking about her history and past. There's what we call documents that you can go off and find, kind of collectibles in the world that will even give you more insights, including the fan fiction, because she writes fan fiction about her heroes inside of this world. So you actually will find this fan fiction and be able to talk about and see her thoughts on her perception in the world as part of it, and then evolving into that superhero who she becomes at the end of it as Miss Marvel. And for us, I think those two arcs are very much a parallel story of who she is as an individual and a Pakistani American in this world, and then who she's becoming as that superhero with Miss Marvel, and how she's always there to stamp out injustice.
We're going to talk about the format of the game a little more in a few minutes, but I want to kind of look at villains and the way you introduce and pace them out within the framework of that kind of. Is it fair to call this game, sorry to be reductive, but a Destiny like in terms of like how it's formatted and longevity and this games as a service style thing?
I would say we're uniquely hybrid of many different types of cool ideas. We have a very specific campaign where you have Kamala as that point of view character, that origin tale for Kamala, realistically, kind of the origin tale for AIM inside of our world as well, and her reassembling those Avengers. But really, those are the hero missions. Those are, and you've seen a couple of them. The Golden Gate Bridge is a hero mission where we actually had you play those 5 heroes. Even from E3 last year, you get to say, oh, I'm going to start as Thor, and then it's going to become Iron Man, and then I'm going to become Hulk. That's actually a hero mission where we have chosen the heroes. We've crafted a story and a scenario where you play them, but it's telling a very specific piece of the story to set up the next stage of the story. And even the Thor mission you saw on the war table, Once an Avenger, that's a hero mission where you're playing as Thor. That's his coming back to the team, but you have the AI companions there with him. You have Iron Man and you have Hulk, and you hear Widow and Kamala on the radio. And so
that's some pre-alpha footage, bro. They had the nerve. And this game's almost releasing in 2 months, but hey, who am I to judge? Fuck it. It is what it is. I'm still getting it. I'm thinking of getting the collector's edition and maybe doing an unboxing, so let me know if you want me to do that. What's up? I mean, I might do it anyway, but let me know.
So for us, that is actually the types, when we talk about a hero mission and how we tell the story, those are crafted experiences to make you really understand those heroes, interject that into the world and the story. And that's separate from kind of that expansion of where once you've collected those heroes, once you've collected them in the main campaign, they become a part of your roster. Now you can choose which heroes you want to go play with in those Warzone missions. And those Warzone missions are also team-based, meaning if I'm Kamala and I have Hulk now on my roster, it's like I have 2 of my heroes. I can go to any Warzone with those 2 heroes and choose which one I want to play, and the other one will be my AI companion. And then as you get more, those other heroes become AI companions for you. So you can play all that content single player, or you can have your friends join in and take place of those AIs and become humans. You can have a mix and match of those. But when I think about the structure that you're getting to, there's a very specific single player story campaign that's all about reassembling the Avengers, the origin tale for Kamala, how AIM sets up the world, and that's just the beginning. Like, that just sets up the state of the world. And at the end of that campaign is when these other areas and war zones and story threads open that have their own story arcs that are individual for a Hulk or for a Widow, but also just AIM itself. Like, what else is AIM doing? What other things are they researching and technologies that are threatening the world? And then we start adding new heroes, new regions that also come with new stories and new named villains as we go.
Tell me that did not look like Iceman, low-key. Well, I know it's probably not Iceman, but Just imagine, like, what's up, you know? All right.
Forward. And so now that world starts expanding with new threats and more things that go from, hey, we're just kind of worried about San Francisco, and then we're worried more about these other regions. Now we're worried about the globe, and now it's getting even bigger and bigger as we go outside from that.
Yeah, I guess my line of thinking was like, how do you make those Warzone style missions impactful when, you know, you have MODOK? Like, do they have villainous kind of endpoints in those side ones? Like you mentioned, Taskmaster's about, and like Super Adaptoid was mentioned a couple times in that kind of war table presentation. Are those characters that are going to be villains that also be in those Warzone experiences? And how do you make them, you know, it's weird. Like in games like Destiny, you have this amazing like build up to, oh, the Taken King is coming, and then you play the game and you sandbag the Taken King for 20 hours at a time. Like it feels weirder to be going up against like a high level villain, let's, you know, say a Taskmaster, and doing within the current, like the existing framework of the game, you do those missions a bunch of times, and each time you'd end up by beating the crap out of Taskmaster. Like, how do you kind of balance? How does Marvel even feel about that? Like, can you stop diminishing like the kind of like the prowess of our villains or our heroes or whatever? And maybe how do you approach that?
It's a great conversation of, you know, in the hero missions, when you're actually first meeting some of these villains and where you meet them and how they pay off in those hero mission stories as part of the campaign. And then there are some that, shall we say, make a reappearance elsewhere, and how they make that reappearance. They are part of certain chains or these threads that you will follow in the war zones that then also has an impact inside the world state. So there's again, that campaign storytelling of where they show up, how you first meet these villains. But you also have the choice of like, I don't want to play the campaign. I want to just go into this kind of war zone world where all these things are. Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go down this mission chain. Might be several missions in, and you realize at the beginning, oh, I'm just chasing down something for Maria Hill and the Shield faction that they want me to go on the specific set of things, and we're trying to get some information or some special object or gear back. And at the end, you're like, oh my God, there's a boss fight at the end of this chain that's multiple missions in, and now that turns out to be one of these other guys. Well, how did he get there, and when did he get there? There's some surprises in the story that I won't spoil, but the idea that it's not diminishing them, it's actually, in my opinion, elevating them from, yep, they're once in the story that I get a chance to see them and get introduced in the campaign, and now I have these other places where we can find them for, I will leave the spoilers out, but for very specific reasons that you can see some of these guys. And that's also the benefit of us having new villains that we add post-launch. We start getting other surprises that pop in and start ending with, wow, there's this whole pantheon of villains that starts to show up that we have to deal with. And I think that's one of the fun things about some of the technologies that AIM is researching. And I'll leave it there. I won't spoil it.
So one of the things that we saw a great deal of in this war table was Thor. Really interesting character in terms of mechanically speaking. Very different styles of melee, and flight is another thing that's super important for him. How did you, I guess, without trying to undersell the capabilities of your studio, the people that you work with, like you guys are known for a specific type of game, and everything that we're seeing is very like melee focused. Like, you know, it invites people to think of stuff like God of War and Platinum's games and that kind of stuff, and people might not necessarily, you know, associate that with Crystal Dynamics. So what kind of work have you put into making sure that, one, that you've got interesting, engaging and satisfying combat, two, that they also feel true to those characters?
So one of the how should I put it?
This pre-alpha
Crystal is known for
very
telling great
clunky.
stories, right? Having that kind of epic storytelling moments with this human spirit, something Marvel's known for. So that just philosophically aligns pretty well of saying we want to have these heroes that are believable, that you can fall in love with, or fall in love with all over again in our case, since they're new versions of them, but also this amazing epicness in the world. And so we actually went out and pulled in some amazing talent, like Vince Napoli is our combat director. Vince was on God of War, the most recent one. You know, I've known Vince since the EA days, and so getting a chance to have somebody who just lives and breathes heroes and combat and everything else, and say, Vince, if I got a challenge for you, buddy, like, looking at how certain games play, is like, hey, that weapon looks a lot like what Thor's hammer should be like. That would be cool. The idea of having him come on board and say, great, I'm going to start attacking this. Which one should I do first? Like, do Black Widow first. And he's like, what? I'm like, no, this is the hardest one to be able to say, how do we make her feel super and she can do all these things? And then when he did that, he and his team, that we call them the player enemy traversal, the PET team, this team of just, these guys are just live and breathe it. They bleed pixels, and they really dove into each hero and said down to the core, what does it need to feel like to play a Black Widow? Okay, what should her skill trees be like? Okay, what should the perks and gear look like that fit with those skill trees? And they just built this from that center core outward, and they did that for each of the heroes. And as they did them, I will tell you this, that each time a new hero came online from that team, that became the team's new favorite. Like, oh my God, Black Widow's amazing. This is crazy. Oh my God, Iron Man is amazing. This is great. And so they were just so good at coming down to what's the core of this hero. They would put together their kind of pitch and design of here's what I think this hero should look like. This feels true to the 80 years of history or however particularly young or old that hero was.
My mic was on mute. I'm saying what I pretty much said is the Bifrost was looked better in the other trailer because it's the pre-alpha. So.
And actually getting Marvel on board, again, from feedback of just saying, hey, this is what we think, just in simple PowerPoints, all the way to now we're going to go prototype it, now we're going to go play it. And so when we got folks to show up, and we wouldn't even say a word, we'd have people just sit down and start playing. Hey, we want you to try Kamala. We're going to just throw you into this room and let you play Kamala Khan. And they couldn't stop playing. And they just started laughing, like uncontrollably, just smiling and laughing, like when they suddenly can embiggen and they can grab one of these aim droids and just smash it into the ground. We're like, okay, we got it. Like that's that thing for us of literally taking a look and saying what's true to the fiction and narrative of these heroes, bringing on expertise that Crystal certainly has a great team of people, but having somebody who's just an expert in that one field can actually elevate that entire group into making even better, smarter choices for how these heroes need to feel like themselves. Widow has kind of that third-person shooter with a lot of cool melee moves, and then Iron Man is kind of like a jet fighter that has multiple weapon styles. Then you have Hulk, who you think traditionally as a massive melee hero, but Vince also gave us the chance that if you want to tune your Hulk to be somebody who can grab giant cosmic infused boulders and hurl them from range like some kind of catapult, you can do that. And so I really do think these guys embraced that from the beginning, that it wasn't just, hey, we're going to reskin the same thing with all the same controls. Like, no, this needs to feel like each hero could be their own game. And that was Vince's core, and it was crazy and it was difficult, and that's just the core heroes at launch. As we have new heroes coming out, that same philosophy applies to those new heroes post-launch, where they will come out and feel like, oh my gosh, this is a robust hero that has a whole new set of skills, a whole new set of skill trees, all new gear, all new attributes they can customize. So it was a daunting task, but from the beginning we knew it was the right thing to do.
Right. You mentioned cosmetics and kind of like gear and that kind of stuff. Can you explain a bit about how that system works? Because as well as how you earn that, how you unlock it, and because you mentioned, or you showed Chastity McBride was in there, and you can kind of chat to her about getting new stuff and fabricate it and all that kind of business. What's that process like, and is it purely contingent on in-game virtual currency, or will there be an option to use real-world currency to buy that stuff in the same way that other games do?
So absolutely. So separating those a little bit. So cosmetics, which we have a variety of cosmetics from some of the emotes they do, the takedowns. Certainly the outfits are one of the primaries. All the cosmetics have two halves. You have groups you can earn just through play, because we want to reward players for their time. So you can go find these things by completing missions, even by completing campaign. There's unique outfits you get only by completing the campaign, as an example. But that's just all earning stuff. So you can do that in war zones. You can do that in the campaign. So earning outfits and actually being able to say, hey, we want to go to Chastity, and there actually is an in-game currency that you can get, that you can discover and you can find and use at the vendor at Chastity store. Separately from that, there are microtransactions and a marketplace where there's things you can only buy. And those things are all cosmetics. There's no paywalls for play. There's no loot boxes and pay to win scenarios. Like, we're very much fans of saying, no, we want to reward players. If they don't want to spend a dime, they can get the core game, go off and earn tons of cool stuff to outfit their heroes the way they want to visually and for the takedowns. But for those who want to invest and say, no, there's certain things that I very much want, or there's particular outfits or particular detailed cosmetics that I want, we have a place for them to go do that with real currency and microtransactions. And that's just cosmetics. All the gear and all the things that you do for gearing up your hero, in which you have multiple gear slots, you have artifact slots, which is kind of digging through Marvel history and saying, here are these cool items from history that actually can apply certain traits or powers or perks to your heroes. Those are things that you find or get rewarded for completing missions inside the game. And so all of your gear comes from in-game and from playing and from even finding resources. If you want to go really deep on this, you can actually find resources that you can then boost certain gear elements to keep them even more powerful or more relevant for longer, because gear has rarity. You have common gear all the way to legendary gear and everything in between. So you have all types of different gear with different perks, different powers and abilities. So we have an entire gear tree and system in there that we certainly just glanced at it in the war table, but there's even more depth on that than we've talked about yet.
Thank you so much, Scott, for your time. The game looks interesting. I'm really excited to see more of it, but I appreciate you taking the time out to talk us through it. And for more coverage of Marvel's Avengers, excuse me, please keep your eye on gamespot.com and on youtube.com/gamespot. We're having daily charity streams, so if you can, please tune in and help us support.
Okay, so I'm gonna click this
Peggy 16.
Let's check this trailer out real quick.
I can't believe it. AIM is firing on the Air Force.
These adaptoids of his, they harvest their powers through the torture of these Inhumans. Georgie Boy is gearing up for war.
Programmable power under our control. No more heroes.
The entire world is in terrible danger. Time is here.
I wonder if there'll be like a free roam button. You know, when you click on that mission, you could be like free roam, you know, after, you know, you beat it.
Some strings to spruce up the armory. Get ourselves some new toys to play with.
I wouldn't get too worried.
Dangerous
I
one.
think about all this gear score, because like gear score, I mean, honestly, you're always gonna earn new things. I wouldn't be too concerned about that if you never played a game that involves gear score.
I'm picking up something in the atmosphere, a derivative of Terrigen.
I'm here. Who needs their ass kicked?
You see all this open world back here? Hopefully you can explore that. And there's some worlds where it looks blocked off, you know, with the hexagons.
Kamala, smash!
Everyone smash!
We gotta get this bird in the air before AIM comes looking for us.
Jarvis is unencrypting the schematics and we'll get our tech heads on new gear ASAP.
You see like all this open world area? I mean, I think with the hero missions, I think you'll be, you know, not really linear, but like a linear type of mission rather than the Warzone missions. It'll probably be more open when you get to do that exploring, like I said.
Look at all this. Which nation state is AIM planning to go to war with?
Heroes are people, and people can be corrupted.
Because I really want to
Don't
explore.
stop them. It's just one more thing.
I hope you're not tied to a mission in order to explore. That kind of like Spider-Man. You can just chill around. Like that. You see in the back right there? In this area? Like hexagon missions like that? Like, you see what I mean? I think this might be part of the hero missions or story missions. But I think that's when it'll be more like linear type. From what I'm picking up with some of these clips.
You want to see powers? Here we go.
Time for heroes is over.
You like right there, You see that? Look at that. Like this area, it looks like open world. Like, dude, I really want to explore like the New York. Like, I really want to do that. Like, that would be sick.
You
Look at that, just yeah, sick.
get to decide who lives.
That looks like a little open area. Looks like maybe they're just chilling. I don't see no hexagons in the background where you're kind of blocked off.
Hey! Where did this thing come from?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to be playing that. I'm really thinking of getting that collector's edition. Well, yeah, I mean, anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and let me know if you like this video. And, like I said, earlier in the video, I'll be doing Iron Man VR unboxing, and I'll be playing it, probably streaming it I'll let you guys know on my Twitter, and you can find that below in the link. So just click that. Follow me on Twitch as well, because that's where I'll be doing my streaming. So yeah, man, hope you guys like this shit right here, man. If you guys want to look at something else, I think they had like let me see. Modod. No. Once an Avenger gameplay. Nah, dude. We don't want to look at that. Hold on, let me see. Let me Yeah, I don't got that YouTube where it does all that crazy shit. Alright. Nah, we don't want to do that. I don't do that. I don't do that stuff. Let me see this.
What are these things? They're drilling into the deck!
After charging your...
Okay, so...
Port.
Alright,
when designing our heroics, we started with the signature moves from the comics and movies that we've always wanted to play. The Assault Heroic charges the fastest, and in some cases, you can store multiple charges to use strategically as a part of your combos. You can perform...
Like, I hope all this open area you can explore. That's gonna be sick, bro. I'm pretty sure you can. I'm pretty sure they'll let you. They haven't really explained that if you could, but I'm pretty sure.
These after charging your heroic meters with normal attacks. For instance, Natasha's Assault Heroic is Widow's Bite, which is an electroshock projectile move you might recognize. You can see Nat using it right here. Each hero also has a unique support heroic.
Anyway, I hope you guys liked that video. So, yeah, I hope you guys like this video. Like I said, like, comment, subscribe, and, yeah, see you guys next time. Yeah.